About 5 days ago, a friend of mine named Yemanjo, an incredible music producer and even better trumpet player, he hit me up to say that he has a new song coming out on this label called Giardino dei Visionari or something, and he was curious if I would be open to doing a remix for him. I've done a remix for him in the past. We did a remix swap. I did one for him and he did one for me, and I opened up the streaming link that he'd sent me on WhatsApp and I had a little listen through to it, and I was like, yeah, this is nice. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. Sure. Wonderful. And I sort of didn't really think much more of it that day. The day after, he then sent me the stems. And I don't know if you guys ever have this situation, and maybe it's got something to do with where my focus has been shifted lately. I've tried to stop consuming, should we say, negative content on the internet. Like, I love conspiracies, and to be fair, a lot of my kicks come from consuming, should we say, conspiratorial content on Twitter. And I love it. It feels really good, but it's kind of like eating Big Macs. And I just decided to deactivate my Twitter account and to just stop doing it. And instead, I've been focusing on one of my other obsessions in life, which is spirituality through the realms of everyday life. And what I mean by that is just like really focusing on my experience of how fucking surreal this all is, that we are here, these weird meat bags capable of so much as we think free will and independent movement and all that kind of shit. So instead of my focus being on all of the dark things happening in the world, which I love that, I really do. I'm not gonna say that I don't love a good conspiracy theory. But instead of focusing on that, instead I'm focusing on what in some ways is also another conspiracy, which is that there's something very strange about the human experience. Needless to say, when I focus on that, as opposed to the conspiracies, I tend to have a far more positive outlook on life. And if I'm being real, I tend to have better ideas and I enjoy my life more. I enjoy interactions with other people more. And of the ideas that I do tend to have, they seem to go a lot better. And so all this to say, the day after Yemanjo had asked me about that remix, and he then sent me those stems, I almost felt like I was being guided, like I didn't have any conscious thought around it. It wasn't like I sat there and I was like, oh, well, I have a good idea. Let me plan this thing and then follow through with it. No, I felt moved, guided by some sort of, dare I say it, feeling from beyond myself, that I sort of just went to the computer and I just declared to the internet, to the entire interwebs, I just declared that I was going to do on, looking at my calendar, 2 days from now, a live stream in which I make this remix, this whole song from scratch in one sitting. And I created like a little funnel page. I set up a little registration link. I posted a thing on Instagram. I got, a couple of people to repost it. I got Yemanjo to repost it. And it all just felt very easy. And I didn't overthink it too much at all. It was just this thing that I thought would probably be quite a good idea, particularly how many people seem to struggle with finishing things. An asterisk here, I've released 116 songs officially. Sure, I've got many thousands of songs that are unfinished. I don't think I necessarily struggle to finish things because I sit down and I try and I can't. It's just I've become somebody who tends not to finish the music that I start, which is very weird. And I think it's a couple of reasons. One, I'm going to blame modular synthesis. There was something about discovering the grid and discovering, God forbid, Eurorack. My wallet's not happy about that discovery, but discovering that in some ways shifted my focus away from completion of music. And instead, it moved it into this realm of the fact that music was just like a thing that I played with and I enjoyed. And even though I had this successful career as a music producer that hinges on the fact that I finish and release music, I started just not doing it anymore. I started just creating these evolving patches that I could just listen to and be like, oh, it feels so good. And in many ways, I started just treating Bitwig more like a player treats their guitar or their piano. The other reason, and this sort of coincides with the same time that I discovered the grid, or that I sort of discovered modular synthesis in general, is I started teaching. And a very strange thing happened when I started teaching, because in some ways, when you become a teacher, you're forced to face what you do and do not know far more regularly. And as such, you have to get better at being able to explain the processes that before were perhaps unconscious. And I think I was pretty good at that, like I definitely didn't up until starting teaching, which was like eight-ish years. 9 years, actually, of being a professional music producer, world-renowned for my style and technique. I never thought about my technique. I never thought about what I was doing. And I never really gave too much of a fuck about trying to figure out why I was motivated to behave in a certain way. Everything changes when you start teaching things, in some ways for the better, and in other ways, as I'm about to list, for the worse. And I think what happened was that I became, in some ways, so observant of the technique that even though I could still make, excuse me, I just ate the salami stick. I'm glad you can't smell that burp. But even though in some ways I still obviously could express myself through music, and I have a great technique, as in not great technique, like I know a lot. I know a lot about how to use Bitwig. Therefore, like I'm not hindered by technical hurdles. The issue was that I started losing touch with actually how I made and finished music. And it's funny, Ollie D, a wonderful German chap who was actually in my recent group course, and also one of the people who was there on the entirety of the 9-hour live stream yesterday. A couple of weeks ago, he gave me some interesting feedback where he said that, I forget exactly how he worded it, but it was something along the lines of the fact that it would be really good for you to make some content about how you actually make music, like how you make music, rather than just these little bite-sized educational pieces. And I think, I got so used into demonstrating a technique, demonstrating features of music production, rather than the experience of music production. Oh, put a page, I always forget the word, put a bookmark in that. I stopped demonstrating the creative process and I started demonstrating these like little microcosms of that and these creative features. Oh, you can do this, you can do that. And it became so much about what I told people that they can do that it stopped being what I do. And sure, I have finished songs. I've put out things since I started teaching. I've put out a lot of music that I really love. Like I've got millions of streams on some songs that I've made since I started being a teacher. But the thing is that I used to finish a lot more music. There was a period of time, I'm going to lean back a bit now because we go back in time, but there was a period of time, probably 2016, 2017, shortly before and around after the time that my father died, that I was on a roll. Nobody could stop me. I was making and releasing an EP every month, many times with 3 to 5 tracks on them. And I had this insatiable desire to create. And not just that, but there was nothing in the way of when I had this spark of an idea. There was nothing in the way of me finishing it. I finished everything I started. And maybe I was actually starting less things because of the fact that what I would work on until completion. Maybe not in one sitting, but I was finishing the things that I started. And yeah, it's transitioned into this experience where I would then make a lot of ideas and they would be that. Like I would make something, I would get it to the point of it being an idea, and without even running into the issue of being like, I don't know how to finish this or I can't finish it, I just wouldn't. I'd chuck it in a folder called good ideas and move on to the next thing. And in some ways, when I would be doing these things as well, like I would experience like a good moment and I'd be like, oh, I should make a video about this. I should make a tutorial teaching this. I should remember how to express this concept to somebody. All this to say, when Ollie then messaged me the other day and he said that, I think it would be really good if you did some videos about how you actually make music. I think that had been cogitating in my mind for a couple of weeks, however long ago it was that he said that. So the other day, when I was moved by this energy beyond myself that I needed to make a remix and share the entire process, I think that was part of it, is that it was like, maybe this is the solution to how you combine this new desire to be authentic, this new desire to be unfiltered on the internet with your music. Because the whole making music tutorials just doesn't feel super fun a lot of the time. Like and I'm not saying I don't enjoy making the videos I make, it's just that I would make more of them if it didn't feel as though I had to sit there and be like, right, well, what am I going to teach today? I had to like go out of my way to find a specific thing that then I have to figure out like a use case for it. Then I have to make like a weird little template demo project file thing that most of the videos I make on this channel with music, I don't finish those songs. I'm not showing you techniques in the context of how I use them, I'm making little ditties here to show you what a random modulator can do. But if you actually go and listen to my music, it sounds nothing like that. And so I want to make videos about me, my music process, how I do it, and I want for the music that I make in that to actually and accurately reflect who I am as an artist, which is just like it's all connecting. It all makes so much fucking sense. It will be way easier for me to make content for this channel. I can literally upload it in one go. You may even notice, you probably won't notice because you would just assume that the sound has been edited after the fact, but I finally found a way to actually compress this microphone to get it sounding good, to remove the noise, which means that I don't even necessarily need to upload the video that I've recorded into Final Cut Pro after making a video, which means I can almost treat these videos like a live stream thing and I can just upload them straight away. For anyone who was actually there on the live stream yesterday, you will realize that I was very quiet. And also overall, like the levels weren't quite right. And that's because I didn't know how to like compress this thing going into the system, but I've figured it all out now. Just took a couple of minutes on YouTube and, you know, a little couple of keywords there, sorted it. This means that I can just do live streams now. And the live stream worked very well for me yesterday. Like I didn't have any internet dropouts, which was great. And it was so fun producing with people there. And side note, I've always been really good at producing in front of people, basically like being a show horse, like on a stage. And, you know, long before I was teaching, I was in plenty of studios all around the world with different people having sessions. And I think one of the things that people enjoyed about it was like, I would make an entire thing in front of them in like, 30 minutes. I'd be like, you could do this, and we'd come up with a lot of great music. So I think in some ways, doing the live stream yesterday rekindled a sense of wonder in me for like just this power, this drive, this insatiable desire to not just make cool sounds, but to make sounds that reflect who I am, what I want out of music, and to finish things. And I jokingly said at the end of the call yesterday that the next time I'm going to do a single live stream where I make an entire EP in one go. So maybe that's 2 or 3 tracks, but I think it could be fun. You know, so long as my wife-to-be, so long as my wife makes me lunch and brings me some pineapple every now and then, I think I could power on through. If it took me 8 hours to make one song, maybe we could be on a sort of like high and get 3 done in 12 hours. Who knows? We could just really rush it ever so slightly. But needless to say, the experience of making something in one go, and I think the key thing is here, declaring to the world that I was going to do that beforehand and then doing it, left me feeling like I came off of like an acid trip or something. There was this sense of the fact that I stood by my word to myself, that I was in line with my word. I was impeccable with what I had said to myself. And so to finish this track just felt really, really good. There was no question while I was producing that I was going to get up and be like, right, guys, I know I said I'd finish it, but I'm not going to now. So if anybody who did stay around for the full 9 hours, like, thank you. Like, it was as much of an experience of me having you guys there as it was of you guys watching me learn or watching me produce. One other thing that I think was just really, really important yesterday, and we sort of touched on at the end, but I have really embodied back into myself as I'm thinking about it since last night, is that in that period of time when I used to make and finish a lot of music, I never strived for perfection. And like, obviously, sure, like, you know, perfection is bad, blah, blah, blah. But still, perfection is this like insidious thing that at times you could trick yourself into thinking that you're not. You could trick yourself into just thinking that you're trying to do what's best for the song. Or you're trying to make the mix good. Trying to make the mix work. Trying to make the song good. But you're not ever giving yourself a goalpost of when the mix is good enough. Or when the track is finished. And so what was really cool yesterday is, as I said at the end, like, I could have absolutely continued on. Somebody asked in the comments, they said, in your opinion, is this release ready? And it was a really good question, because I could, of course, have listened to the song and further picked apart things that I didn't like about it. And some of these could have even been those strange, intangible things where I can't even quite describe it. I could be like, the bass, it just doesn't feel right. And I think at times that doesn't come from honesty, authentic, like an accurate reflection of what's wrong with the song. It comes from this just fear of letting go, of finishing something, of declaring to the world that it is done, and therefore, in some ways, being open to criticism. And so yesterday, I got to this point where, some of the people who have watched the video have since said they really appreciated my SoundCloud workflow. Maybe I'll just touch on that quickly, but I'll work on a song, but once I get to a certain point that I feel like I now need to give myself feedback, I will not listen to the track ever in Bitwig. I will never listen through to the song in the project file. I will instead export it, upload it to SoundCloud, and listen through to it there. Because there, and only there, am I then incapable of making any changes to it then and there. Like, I can't pause it and tweak the volume of that. So I just comment with timestamps. And then I go back to the project file, and then I work through from the earliest timestamp to the last timestamp, fixing those little things. Then, at that point, I will export it again. I'll put it back into SoundCloud, do the same thing. And it only took 2 uploads yesterday. I think it was maybe 30 comments on the first upload, and 17 on the second. So 47 notes I gave to myself, at which point I declared the song finished. And of course, I could have continued. I could have done more to it. But no, I declared it finished, and then I then mastered it. I exported the master, listened to it, happy with it, done. Sent it off to to Yemanjo for the remix. And I want to get back to that. I want to get back to that all the time. Is that it's possible to not doubt yourself. It's highly possible to make great work without too much effort. It's highly possible to be free from the claws of perfection. But it just takes this weird, unspeakable switch inside ourselves. Like, you can't teach it. You can't point at it. All you can do is demonstrate it. And I feel like I demonstrated it for myself again yesterday in a way where it's like music can be so expressive and it can be such a representation of what I love. Like, if you listen to the track, like, halfway through it just becomes a sort of flamenco track, and then the harmony changes and it becomes happy and sad, and I love all that. There were no rules. There was no, does this work? Is this right? There's no, is the mix correct for this? It was just this free-form stream of consciousness and music production experience. And so I ask you, when you produce music and you run into an issue where you don't finish a thing, why is it? What is the thing? What is that unspeakable reason that you get stuck, that you stop it? I know, again, as I said, for me, it was that I just got so used to not finishing things that I stopped even expressing a desire to do it. I stopped telling myself, well, this is what we're here to do. And finishing things is so important. I know it's wonderful to produce, to play, to experiment in the DAW, but it's the finishing, it's the sharing that gives you that feeling of completion, of growth, and ultimately allows you to then share your music with the world, to get it out there. And so if in any way you feel as though it's been perhaps a bit too long since you've finished something, finish it. Declare that you will finish that song and just get it up. Get it up. Oh, it feels so good. Like I'm on a high right now. In about an hour or two, I'm going to a friend of mine, a local friend, who does these jam sessions here on Thursday. And while there, I'm going to play guitar, I'm going to play bass, I'm going to play drums, I'm going to play keys. I'm also going to take my HPD 20 so I can play some percussion. Also very cool, Yemanjo is coming. He's just moved to Costa Rica about an hour away from me north, and he's coming as well, and he's going to bring his trumpet, and we are going to have an amazing jam session. One of the things I love about those jam sessions is I don't turn up with, okay, well, here's my plan of what I need to do. I'm not sat there like criticizing the sounds that I'm making. I'm not sat there criticizing what other people are making. Together, we're just in this experience of music flowing and of noticing the emotions that pass in like different chord progressions and different melodies and different rhythms. And it's just such a gift. And I think that's also really helped me lately with my production, is allowing myself the space to jam and to create with other people and to be open as an artist. And, you know, it's a really interesting experience being a self-employed musician, a self-employed artist. I guess you would just call this a freelance creative or whatever, because on the one hand, you have to be creative and open and free-flowing and like a river. But then on the other hand, you have to be structured. You have to have discipline. You have to be able to, you have to be in line, you know. And I think true success, and I don't necessarily always mean success financially or metrically, but I do sometimes, because let's bridge both worlds, let's not be black and white here. But success, as in the ability to feel good about your work, as well as then obviously it'd be quite nice to make some money and have some metric success from it. But that success comes from being balanced, from finding this position between structure and chaos, and being there in the middle, walking that middle road as an artist. I'm going to wrap this video up now because I need to go and have my luncheon, and I am so grateful for everybody who tuned in yesterday. It was a real blast. Now that I've got the old compression thing going on here, I'm going to do more live streams. Maybe I'll make it a weekly thing. And I'm not going to make them lessons. I'm going to make them making songs from scratch, because that, I think, is the lesson right there. I don't need to teach you how to use a compressor if a compressor won't help you express yourself. I mean, sure, that's a bullish statement. But anyways, I'm going to do more of these live streams. The audio quality is going to be banging. I'm going to get better at the old Stream Deck thingamajig. You know, any suggestions you guys have actually about like how to do a better stream or whatever, that I'm open to hearing it. But thank you so much for everybody who not just came yesterday, but everybody who has been supporting me on this YouTube channel since the beginning, and everybody who continues to come back video after video to express their appreciation. I'm just so grateful for you and for this chance to be able to share the thing that I love more than anything on earth, making music, to be able to share that with such a big audience. So on that note, happy Thursday and happy creating.